Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted. I'm Hannah,
I'm Anuli.
and today we're talking about how to build a good reputation. So there's a bunch of different reasons why you might want to. Maybe you're going into the professional work sphere. Maybe it's in school. Maybe it's amongst your friends. There's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to. And I think Anuli and I have the qualifications on how to help you all with this, since I would think that we have at least relatively good reputations in our circles. What do you think, Anuli? What are your thoughts?
I think we can say that. Yeah, it's almost Christmas. We can say it. No, kidding. But I feel like reputation is definitely a very, very strong word, and it can follow you everywhere. Above the mountains, beyond the seas, wherever you go, it's right there. So it's a very powerful word, and I feel like it's also built on a very powerful set of words as well. Like integrity. When I think about reputation, I think about what a person entails in terms of integrity, in terms of self-confidence, how they make other people feel. All of those qualities sort of build a reputation, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely what you're saying, especially about the everywhere you go, your reputation is bound to follow you. And there's a saying that's like, everywhere you go, there you are. It's like you can't outrun yourself. You can't escape yourself. You can only work on improving yourself and making you the person that you want to be around.
Yeah.
And so that also kind of goes into the different spheres where you can have different reputations amongst, the different people you're hanging out with. And you're not necessarily going to want to be somebody that is very strict and on point and pays attention to a lot of detail if you're just hanging out with friends, but that'll be a good reputation to have if you're in the work sphere. So of course there's like differing times when you're going to want different aspects of yourself to show.
Yeah.
So like while we're on the topic, what would you say your reputations are amongst your different circles, Anuli?
I feel like every single person has their own perspective of how they see you, and no two people can see you the exact same. There's a different version of you in the mind of everybody that you meet. So it's impossible to control how people see you, but it's very easy and very possible to control how you want to show yourself to the world. And I think that's what taking control of your reputation is. So coming back to your question, I feel like if I am making sure that I'm a good person inside out, and I make sure that I act from a place of honesty and integrity, that's what hopefully people would be seeing. At the bottom of it all, when you strip apart your behavior, your everyday actions, what really you're comprised of as a human being is really what people need to see. So hopefully it's something good.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe to go on a little tangent, I feel like also reputation is not just how people see you. Like I said before, I think it's also how you see yourself. So if you're able to carry yourself with self-confidence, and if you're able to be self-assured in every step that you take, then that's how people will see you. You set the bar for how you want people to see you. So I think the best way to go about it is to just act accordingly. Yeah. What do you think?
I agree, especially with those basic principles that you live your everyday life with. That is what hopefully will translate to people.
Yeah.
Like you were saying about having integrity, that is going to translate across borders and across different spheres of your life. Yeah. So that also applies to how you carry yourself, Anuli, like you said, and if you're carrying yourself with confidence. And I think I've mentioned this in a previous podcast about kind of living a life that you can be proud of and having done something every day that you can be proud of. That is going to subconsciously show itself when you're interacting with people,
Yeah.
and will change or influence at least those people's opinions of you. And like you said as well, you can't necessarily control the way everybody thinks about you, because people are also thinking about you based on their experiences, maybe with somebody like you, maybe with somebody that shared a similar trait to someone you know, or an experience they had where maybe they see themselves in you, and a trait that they are proud of that they see in you as well, or maybe something that they are trying to work on themselves and improving, and they see it
Yeah.
reflected in you as well. I've definitely had it before where like in a work environment where I'm like, oh my goodness, the way this person does this, it really frustrates me. And then I realize it's because I do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And it's what I don't like about how I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
so, but you have to recognize that it's not that they are doing anything badly. It's not anything against them, but I was kind of having a reputation in my mind about them based
Yeah.
on like a reflection of something I didn't like in myself.
Yeah.
So you have to realize that people are going to be doing that to you as well. So the most you can do is control your own actions and be proud of the life that you live.
Exactly. I definitely agree. And that brings up a very important point that people can only meet you as far as they've met themselves. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Oh, I
um,
haven't. It's a good one.
that's actually such an important point to think about in life, because you could be the best version of yourself, but if people haven't evolved in their minds to see that about you, then
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to have a good opinion about you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why functioning from a place of honesty and integrity is so important, because irrespective of their opinion, your reputation will stay intact. Because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, as I said, different people will see you differently. And if you know that you're doing the right thing, then for every one person that has a negative opinion about the way you do things, there will be 10 people that have a positive opinion about the way you do things. So your reputation at the end of the day will stay intact if for the millionth time you function from a place of honesty and integrity.
I agree. That's it. That's a really good way of putting it. Also, so we're talking about your reputation staying intact, but how would you build one up to begin with? What if you're, maybe you're just stepping foot on the college campus? I mean, not many of us will be stepping foot on any campus this semester, but you know what I mean, or into the workplace, or
Yeah.
into a new, internship or something like that, a new social setting, even a new club. How do
Mhm.
you build that reputation?
That's a great question. And I feel like the answer to that would address something that a lot of people overlook, which is young professionals, people in their early 20s, not understanding and realizing how important reputation is, especially in your professional life. Now, among friends and your family, you don't really care about reputation because you get to be who you want to be. But in the professional world, where there is such a strong and deeply interconnected network of people, where you do one thing on the East Coast and somebody on the West Coast will know about it in a matter of hours. And that's how strongly interconnected the network is in a professional setting. So it's very important that you make sure that you start off right. So being in your early 20s and living your life does not mean making decisions that will potentially destroy your life.
Mm.
You could have all the fun that you want. You could be a fun-loving 20-year-old, but at the same time, you also need to be responsible enough to not mess things up for yourself in the future. So that is step one to building a reputation, knowing not to mess up, just because you have that kind of freedom when you're young.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's something that I would definitely stress on focusing on, for sure.
I think that's really important, especially because as Anuli and I are university experts at this point, I think we're aged university students.
Oh my
But
God.
really, by the time you transition from a freshman to a senior to a college graduate, you're starting to realize that actually your friends in these social settings, the social networks you're creating, are becoming those professional networks.
Yeah.
And that's why it's also important to carry those basic principles with you every day in your life, into every social and professional and academic setting, because even though you're not necessarily trying to impress an employer or a professor, your colleague sitting next to you at the lunch table could be that employer in a couple years' time, and you're going to need their help with something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are trying to switch it up in your different settings and you think you can kind of let it go with that person and, not care about the relationship you build with that person, that is going to eventually affect your professional future and academic future. So I think that's also important in realizing. So number one, we have basically not messing up just because you have the freedom to do so, because of those things translate so quickly. And two, that your friends now are going to become your professional colleagues later, for sure.
One thing that I also think is really important, and I think we definitely talked about this in one of our earlier podcasts where we talked about getting jobs and internships, is treat every opportunity the same. Like if it's your dream job, treat it just as well. Well, if it's not your dream job, then treat it just as well as you would your dream job, because you never know, the people at either place might be, judging you based on your capabilities or merely just your ability and your willingness to learn and your attitude towards your job. And that will go a long way. Even if it's a job that you actually hate from the bottom of your heart, it's okay to hate it, but it's not okay to not give it your 100% just because you hate it. Because you never know, your manager might know somebody from your dream job that might be able to give you a good contact or put in a good word for you. So always, no matter what it is, you never know when some seemingly small opportunity might just open big doors for you. So it's really important to treat everything equal.
Anuli, that is so true.
Yep.
Even when it also comes to, as you're kind of saying, like treating people all the same. Don't treat a friend with any less respect than you would a professor or employer or your parents or anything like that. For that exact same reason, and also just because it's basic human decency at that point.
Right.
And you also don't know the varying levels of importance that people give to different things. Sometimes for timeliness is very important to some people, whereas maybe the time that you have with that person, whether they're late or not, is more important to the other person. So it's really also about being considerate of everybody else. Because at the end of the day, as much as you do create your own reputation is also somewhat based on the perspectives of outside people. So if you're always late with somebody and they're talking with another friend, they're going to say this person's actually always late, so you can't depend on them. That's the impression they're getting of you. Not that, you were just running late all the time because of whatever, but you're not dependable. So you have to realize how all of these relationships affect each other.
I agree 100%. And one thing that came to mind when you were saying that is I think one thing that really channels your reputation is your attitude towards things. Now we talked about our jobs specifically and your attitude to every opportunity that comes to you, but your attitude towards people and your attitude towards people that critique your work. Always be ready to learn. I personally love people that, I don't care how skilled you are or I don't care how unskilled you are, as long as you're showing up to my door and you're ready to learn, we're good to go. But the minute you come up for an opportunity and you're being a snob, and you don't have the best attitude, you don't have the most welcoming attitude, I don't care how skilled you are, I don't care what your GPA is, that's a big turn off, especially in the corporate world. I think, well, that's all I have to say.
That is especially true. And you guys, well, Anuli, we both have some sort of, is it employer, like the employer perspective experience to an extent?
Yeah.
So we're not just Yeah, we're not just pulling this out of our butt. It's like for realsies. Yeah, you want to start that?
Sure. So one final thing that we want to hit up on when talking about reputation is self-confidence. Now, we stress upon this at least once in almost every podcast that we talk about, because that's exactly how important it is to your life. I feel like self-confidence helps you determine the level at which you want to treat yourself with respect, and that simultaneously will determine how people will treat you with respect. So it's very important, no matter what you do in life, where you are in life, to always be confident in who you are. And being self-confident doesn't necessarily mean being the most skilled person in the room. It means being okay with not being the most skilled, but not letting that hamper your confidence in any way. And that's the most important thing that you have to keep in mind.
I agree completely. If you want to learn about how to build that self-confidence, we have an episode on that. But as Anuli said, it means being okay with who you are, being okay with what you know, and knowing that you're always willing to learn more, to do more, going into every setting, being your best self. It means if you need to wear makeup to feel confident, wear your makeup to feel confident and go in there and show everybody what's what. If you need to do it, basically do what you need to do to feel confident and capable of yourself. Absolutely. And that is going to translate into your reputation.
100%. All right, so I guess that's all that we have for reputation today. We're going to go ahead with a quick summary about what we talked about. So the first thing that we talked about is how, as young professionals, even if you're in your early 20s, you're just entering the corporate world, it's important to still make sure your reputation stays intact. So just because you're young and you want to have fun doesn't mean you ruin all your possibilities in the future.
Exactly. We also talked about how your friends now will be your work colleagues later. So it's important to make sure that you're treating everybody equally, which is another point that we can go over again later, and make sure that your reputation is staying intact across those social circles.
So the next thing that we talked about was how important it is to treat every opportunity that comes your way with the same kind of respect. Because you never know, the opportunity that you weren't looking for might just be the opportunity that you need. And so it's really important to make sure you give your 100% to everything that you do.
Yeah. We also talked about, again, how relationships affect one another and how it's important that you treat, again, everybody with the same kind of respect, because not only for basic human decency, but somebody now, it might know somebody in your dream job or career, and your relationship with that person can have an effect on that career later down the line.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we wanted to stress upon is your attitude. Now, attitude is the most important thing. No matter how skilled you are or how much you want to learn, it's always important to be humble, and always important to make sure that people know that you're there to learn. And that's what your attitude should primarily be. You don't want to come off as a snob, because that will definitely ruin your chances in the corporate world, because everybody happens to know everybody. And, you don't want to come across as a know-it-all. So just when you go at the door of every opportunity, just be open to learning, and just be open to building on your skill set as much as you possibly can.
I agree. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of Unscripted. My name is Hannah.
I'm Anuli.
Thanks for watching.